Lesson 7. Fear and Acceptance. Why do we die? For many years, I lived near a small stream that ran through a wooded area behind my home. There was a path that moved alongside the water's edge, and I would walk my dog there almost every day as a matter of routine. The stream was mostly bounded on both sides by mature trees shading the water, but there were occasional areas of open grass that often contained a myriad of animals drinking or foraging in beams of broken sunlight. On one particularly crisp day, I was guiding my dog around a bend in the pathway near one of the taller grassy areas when something caught my attention out of the corner of my eye. I turned, and there in the middle of the grass was a bundle of brown fur glistening in the sunlight. I moved in for a closer look to see a small animal lying on its side, slightly coiled up like many do when they are sleeping. I was surprised that the creature didn't stir upon hearing my cautious footsteps rustling the grass, but as I grew closer, I realized why there was no movement. The animal had died. I experienced a very strange sensation, a profound sadness. Of course, I had seen many dead animals before, but never one so pristine. There were no exterior signs of physical harm or illness, and there was no damage from predators or any decay from natural processes. The death must have been recent, and the animal, sensing the end was coming, chose to move to a grassy bed to lay down and leave this life. No struggle, just a final breath on a soft mat of grass. I wondered what the animal experienced in its final moments. Was it frightened? It clearly knew that the end was coming. Did it know that death was an inevitability? If so, for how long? Did it spend its final days fearful of the coming end, only to accept the inevitable? I hope that the final moments were as peaceful as the animal now appeared. The image from that day still haunts me, and I doubt it will ever be exorcised from my memory. I think it was the fact that there was no sign of trauma that had the most impact. It looked too vibrant, too pristine to be gone. It made me think about the nature of death and the fact that there would be no escaping it. What is the value of a life? Can it be measured? In an attempt to find the answer, let's take a moment and consider what gives something value. There is a famous philosophical contradiction known as the diamond water paradox, sometimes referred to as the paradox of value. This paradox questions the fact that though water is a fundamental and essential requirement for life, its economic value does not command anywhere near that of a diamond, which has little, if any, intrinsic value. The theory being that this is a result of the relative abundance and ease of access to water as compared to a diamond. Of course, there's a caveat. If there were little to no water available for a mass of people, it would become something to kill for, while the diamond becomes virtually worthless. Value, it seems, is based on circumstance and perception. For most of us, we expect to open our eyes the next morning, enter our waking routine, and then return to sleep in preparation for the next day. We take this pattern for granted unless something radically changes in our world. Age, serious illness, or a life-altering experience changes our perception of value. We can no longer rely on our routine because we are suddenly made aware that there is no guarantee it will remain. Life is no longer in abundance, and as we near its end, value changes dramatically. Death is an apex fear for human beings, and this fear has been weaponized by those who do not share your best interests for manipulation and coercion. But it is also a paradox because no matter how hard we try to run the other way, death will always catch up to us. No amount of policies, ruling decrees, or doctrines will stop you from dying. No money, regulations, or insurance will stave off the inevitable. This is not to say we should just embrace a philosophy of nihilism, but rather than allowing this fear and its weaponization to control us, maybe we need to re-examine the value of death by considering how it changes the value of life. This world is a classroom and a gift. You are here to learn through experience, but you cannot stay here forever because you are not meant to. For the introspective soul, pause and consider the balance of this life. Would you be able to know health without illness? Could you truly experience joy if it couldn't be measured against sadness? Can you ever really triumph without the possibility of defeat? Can you truly have free will without the ability to reject a higher power? Would life have the same value without death? Those who do not share your best interests crave power. They believe in the illusion of control. They create boundaries where they can and harness fear as a weapon to be used against you. They make false promises that they can stop pain, prevent sadness, and halt the injustices of life if you only give them a little more power and your compliance. But can they really? What is the value of life without experience, good or bad? If you are not familiar with his history, research the biography of President Theodore Roosevelt. His was a life of both tragic and triumphant experience, certainly not always pleasant and joyful. Clearly his life was a statistical outlier when compared to most, but the question remains, would you rather live the experiences of his 60 years or live to be a government-prescribed and dictated 100? Do not succumb to their fear and false promises, because they take away the value of life, not enhance it. Recognizing the existence and authority of a deeper reality is not an argument to let life happen around you without taking action or participation. In fact, it is the opposite. Use your free will to make positive choices that maximize your learning through experience. Everything has a purpose. Maybe the purpose of the animal dying in that spot on my walk was to open my mind to consider the role and importance that death has to life. Maybe not, but it did have an effect. There will always be regrets. It's part of the balance of life. Without regret, there would be no appreciation of fulfillment. Why do we die? So we can appreciate the value of life. Do not fear the time when you come to the end of this life's journey, and do not let others manipulate that fear for their own gain. Embrace the experiences you did have, both good and bad. Embrace the regret of experiences not had. It all matters. When the end of my time in this realm comes, I hope to find my own patch of streamside grass in the sun, where I can fall into a final sleep, dreaming of all those wonderful experiences of a priceless life. You're only immortal for a limited time. Thank you, Neil.